Into the straight, Royal Star led Prize Catch. They booted two in front from Salon de Chevelle and It's a Him, My Fair Beauty. And here comes Mississippi Delta at the 150, and Pike releases the brakes, and Mississippi Delta stormed up, grabbed them, put paid to them. Down the outside, First Affair, Blue Tracer, but Mississippi Delta comes away with an effortless win.
When you think Western Australian racing, Bob Peters and his famous cerise and white colours quickly come to mind. Bob Peters is WA's most successful owner-breeder, and his record is respected worldwide. And today we pay him a visit at his spectacular property about an hour outside of Perth and see how this man, from humble beginnings, has used horsepower of two different kinds to build quite an empire. Bob Peters, thanks for joining us here on Sky Racing. The first question is, where did you get your love for horses?
Oh, that goes back a long way. I was born in the during the First World War, and there was no fuel for tractors or anything. They used horses to harvest, and I was living on a farm in Dalwallinu, and they used to put me on their back after they'd finished their work for the day. So that started it all. And then as I grew up, horses were everywhere. They were in the streets and pulling the baker's cart and doing that sort of thing. And so we started, everyone wanted to ride a horse, and I started thinking I'd like to get a horse, and I had to I had to save my money by working after school and everything, and I finished up buying my first horse in partnership with two sisters that lived up the road. We paid £9 for him, and we kept him in my backyard, and that's how I learned to ride.
The love for the Thoroughbred. Why do you love the Thoroughbred?
Well, they're the ultimate, aren't they? You know, that's a magnificent animal. They and I suppose we're all competitive, aren't we?
You talked about that you needed to make sure that you had enough money to get into the racing game, the Thoroughbred game, owning horses. Take us through the early days when the business side of Bob Peters. When was your first business, and did you go to university? Did you study?
I went through school, and in those days it was called leaving certificate, and part of that was if you obtained certain scores you matriculated to university. But I went to work for a year straight after school. I applied for a job that I saw advertised as an assistant to the general sales manager of the Volkswagen distributorship for Western Australia. I told him that I wanted to sell cars, and he said, well, we own a Volkswagen dealership in Fremantle, why don't you go and talk to our manager? So I went and spoke to him down there on the Saturday afternoon, and he gave me a job.
You were that successful at selling cars, Bob, that I think you decided to start your own business. When did you make your first million, Bob?
I never worked that out, but I retired at 30 for a little while. I bought a farm up at Gingin, and I was going to become a farmer.
So at age 30 you retired, so obviously you had enough money to set up your Thoroughbred business. When did you start to kick off your breeding empire now, which is your empire now?
It was around that time. I can remember I bought a tried horse, and luckily or unluckily he won his races for us, and then I bought another one and he won, and then I bought two yearling fillies at the Melbourne yearling sales, one by Showdown and one by Better Boy, and that was the start of the probably the breeding business.
What's your favourite line that you've bred?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 mares that have really produced for us, and their progeny keep producing for us. Lady Ashford comes down through the Star Encounter and Favourite Star, who are all producing daughters of Lady Ashford.
Rock on Tommy's about to be popped. The big question here at the top of the home straight from a Knight of Pro. They've kicked away. They brush together. Rock on Tommy and Knight of Pro. They're going head and head. About 4 lengths. Bollywood Blitz, Mississippi Delta, Red Publisher. And Knight of Pro reaches the lead from Rock on Tommy. At the 100, a Knight of Pro 3/4 in front. Mississippi Delta. It's getting out of the ground, flying, going 3 to their 1. It swamps the Mississippi Delta.
Bob, looking at your record, more than 1,350 winners. 22 Group 1s, and you can go through all of them, 26 Group 2s, 47 Group 3s, and that's probably increased over the last 6 months or so. What do you judge your business on when it comes to thoroughbred racing? How do you judge it as a success or not?
Look, I suppose, as everyone would, number of winners for the year, but mainly the number of black type winners.
You've had many trainers who have trained for you, Bob. Who's been the best trainer in your eyes?
Well, I'd have to say, you know, I'd get into trouble if I didn't say the 2 that I've got now, would I?
Yeah, Grant and Alana Williams and Adam Durant.
Yeah. But the other one that stands out, of course, is George Hanlon. And George and I had a great relationship. At the time when I was with George, he only trained 19 horses at a time. And I would have probably had 3 or 4 of them with him all the way through.
What made George so special to you, Bob?
George was an amazing man. People think that George didn't know much about what he was talking about. He knew everything about every subject you wanted to talk about. He was so dedicated. His property worked perfectly with that big hill that he had, the way that he worked them. He was a very, as I said, a very clever man.
A lot of George Hanlon rubs off on Bob Peters.
I don't know about that.
In the way that you do your business and the way that I watched a bit of George talking to the media one day, and there's a bit of Bob about George and George about Bob. Am I right?
Oh, he always he used to amuse me whenever the journalists asked him a question. He never answered. He always asked them one back again. They'd ask George, well, what do you think this horse could do, George? Do you think he could stay, or what do you think? And he'd say, well, what do you think he should do? And that was always his answer.
And you're a little bit like George when you talk to the media, and I would know, Bob.
No, not at all. I'm easy, aren't I?
Yeah. How long have you had this property for?
26 years now.
Yeah. And how big is it?
We've got 650 acres.
Yep.
This is the main sort of homestead area around here, and then we have the adjustment all around us. A lot of young horses up through here, as you can probably see through in the paddocks over here. That's this year's yearlings that are coming through. We do the training of the young horses to get them to, look after themselves, pick up their feet, do all that sort of thing. Then they go to the breaker, and then after that they have a session, a bit of time at Ascot at the track, and then they have our pre-trainers have them in and out, and then finally they might get to the trainer about when they're ready to trial. About halfway through their 2-year-old year.
Is this exactly what you wanted? Is this your dream property?
This is the probably the fifth property we've had. This is the best part of the state to have horses, to have young horses and older horses, in my opinion. And we've built it up from what just keep improving it. So what happens.
A lot of your broodmares, they're in the Hunter Valley on the eastern side of the country. So when do the foals come back here, and what age?
The foals all come home when they're weaned. We've got mares in Queensland, 2 places in New South Wales, the Gambia in Victoria, and then 4 farms in New Zealand.
Now, how many shares do you have in stallions? I was counting them before. You got Piero, small share in him.
Yes.
Done Deal,
yes.
Animal Kingdom,
yes.
You need to help me here, Bob.
Toast and Stardom.
Yep.
And a bigger shareholding in Vancouver and Extravagant, that horse from New Zealand.
There you go. So you've got a few stallions to choose from these days.
Yes. Yeah.
Why don't you have one here anymore?
We used to have a couple of stallions here at the same time, and I found that the mare owners wouldn't take their mares home. They seemed to like the property, so we finished up with too many horses on the property, and I decided that wasn't the way we were going to go.
Okay. I wouldn't mind living here, Bob, if that's okay. Cheap rent?
They call it horse heaven.
Yeah. Bob, the famous Cerise and White will play a major part, hopefully, in our Masters series. You've got the favourite for the 3 Group 1s. Enticing Star, the winner, bottom, Galaxy Star, the Railway, and I think she's still the favourite for the Kingston Town. Do you get nervous?
Oh, I get worried and hopeful.
Yeah. Which race do you want to win most?
The Railway Stakes, that's always the hardest race to win.
And Galaxy Star's well back with Akanar Star, and they're being followed by Action. Further back, Perfect Jewel, and last of all is Star Exhibit, about 12 lengths or more from Brinkley, who at the 400 headed for home in the Railway. Here comes the challenge of Material Man away from the rail, and great shot under the whip, straightening up. Here's Man Booker running on. Behind them, searching for run is Mr. Seawolf. Warwick goes for home now. Material Man, Gadding gets out. Here's Galaxy Star erupting, however. Here's Galaxy Star running through the middle with Gadding in pursuit, but Galaxy Star draws away from them. Pike Magician. Galaxy Star beats Gadding and Material Man.
Oh, I thought, here we go again, we're at the back.
And then when did you think she was home?
Just as they came around the corner, you could see she was travelling.
What do you do with her now? Does she back up, saying, to Kingston Town?
Oh, there's not much else for her, is there?
No. And maybe when we think ahead, do we see her over in the east in the autumn and then maybe the spring next year?
Oh, think about all that later, see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
And you win a lot of races, Bob, but what's this mean to you to win another Railway, your third?
Oh, it's a hard, this is the race we aim for. I aimed this filly for this carnival. It's been the aim ever since she was foaled. We've looked after her, and as I said before, it's great when a plan comes together.